In this section, we'll look at the rise of John F. Kennedy. In the 1960 election, the Democrats had several options for president. They weren't going to run Adlai Stevenson again, who'd lost in both 1952 and 1956. A young Massachusetts senator, John F. Kennedy, certainly appealed to the liberals and was strong in New England. Other candidates, such as Lyndon Baines Johnson from Texas, was more experienced and appealed more to the conservatives. In the end, the Democrats nominated Kennedy, who selected his chief competitor, Lyndon Johnson, as his running mate, a way to unite the party. In an attempt to tie himself to Franklin Roosevelt, who went by FDR, Kennedy encouraged people to refer to him as JFK. In time, in fact, Lyndon Johnson will be known as LBJ. JFK's political rise was helped by a wealthy and ambitious family. His father, Joseph P. Kennedy, had earned his fortune from shipping, investment, real estate, and during Prohibition liquor. And he donated a lot of money to the Democratic Party, and FDR appointed him ambassador to Great Britain. His Irish Catholic roots, however, prevented him from entering the nation's society elite, which was still very waspish, and that really grated on him. And his pre-World War II isolationism sort of ruled him out for personal public office. But he did raise 4 sons and instilled in them the tremendous drive for political office. He also fathered a number of girls. His ambitions fell to his oldest son, Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. He, however, was killed in World War II when he volunteered for a dangerous mission, and thus his Joseph P. Kennedy's ambition turned to his second son, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, JFK. When JFK wrote a senior thesis at Harvard, Joseph Kennedy got a journalist to help JFK rewrite it and put it into a book. And the book became known as While England Slept. And, of course, Joseph Kennedy made sure that JFK and not the journalist got all the credit for the writing. In World War II, JFK entered the Navy and was commander of a PT boat, a patrol boat in the Pacific. And one night it was rammed by a Japanese destroyer, and the men were thrown into the water, and Kennedy heroically saved several lives, helping them to swim to an island. And his father arranged for a popular novelist to write a number of articles about JFK's experience in his PT 109 role. And these articles helped also establish JFK as a sort of a war hero, and as well as kind of a scholar. With his father's money and connections, Kennedy won a House seat from the Boston area in 1946. A year a wave of young World War II veterans first ran for Congress, including young Richard Nixon. He won re-election in 1948, and then he won a Senate seat in 1952. In 1958, he won re-election to the U.S. Senate. Just before his election to the Senate in 1952, Kennedy met Jacqueline Lee Bouvier at a dinner party. Jacqueline Bouvier, the daughter of a wealthy stockbroker and a young woman with an elite education and background, was a aspiring professional photographer, and she enjoyed things like horse riding. She married Kennedy on September 12, 1953 in Rhode Island. It was a wedding of 2 powerful families and 2 beautiful people that sort of captivated the society pages and the social register. Jacqueline's beauty and charm certainly enhanced Kennedy's political aspirations. In 1957, Kennedy won the Pulitzer Prize for his book of short biographies of famous politicians who had done the correct thing despite the political repercussions their actions would have incurred. It was entitled Profiles in Courage. Kennedy provided the theme and sort of supervised the production, but it was later claimed that his speechwriter, Theodore Sorensen, had written much of the book. Of course, the book also helped Kennedy's career. By 1960, Kennedy was young, handsome, and well-known, with a moderate and rather undistinguished, or certainly non-controversial voting record. He's only 42 years old, just a little older than the youngest president ever, Theodore Roosevelt. The Kennedy campaign presented a picture of a youthful, energetic, and healthy young man. But in reality, Kennedy suffered from a number of health issues, including ulcers, colitis, and most notably Addison's disease. and he had a chronically injured back. He was almost constantly taking drugs to alleviate the pain. When Kennedy was president, his good looks certainly played to his advantage during the emerging television age, and he was also helped by his relations with the press. He was young and had two young kids, Caroline and John Jr., and many in the media were young and they could relate to FDR. It wasn't like their grandfather that Eisenhower appeared. JFK was smart enough to court the media. He gave a lot of news conferences and interviews, and he constantly gave television addresses, and it all underscored his charisma. He made the point of learning journalists' names, which of course endeared them to him. The media largely ignored JFK's questionable personal life. He had a number of affairs, notably with Marilyn Monroe, who sang "Happy Birthday" in a very sensuous way to Kennedy when he was president on stage, and it's kind of awkward because Jackie Kennedy was sitting right next to him. And he also had an affair with Judith Exner, who was a mob boss's girlfriend. The mob bosses, Sam Giancana and John Roselli, had relations with her as well, so that was kind of awkward. The FBI under J. Edgar Hoover knew about it and followed the president, and they took pictures of him leaving his girlfriend's houses in the Georgetown in the pre-dawn, and they used it to make sure that he didn't remove J. Edgar Hoover. The media often, it was an old boys network, and the media often ignored it. He was the president. They didn't want to bring the president down. It was a different age. This concludes the section on JFK the Man and his rise into office.